All right. We got my dude Cody here. Cody is someone who came to me probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he was dealing with some foot pain. I'm gonna let him just kind of give you the backstory, give you the history, all the things that he had tried. But we've come off a couple of really big wins, and so I'm super stoked. So yeah, Cody, I guess the first thing, do you care to just kind of tell kind of your story and like what got you to this point and all that?
Yeah, so I've been dealing with some foot pain on and off since I don't know, I was in like high school, I think. So that was easily 10 years or so. Oh, yeah, 10, 11, 12 years ago now. Um, ran cross country, did track. And at that time, it was just like push through it. And, youth was on my side, so I did. But now that I'm, mid 20, late 20s now, things are stacking up. It's lingering on. Just came off a training block this past winter where I had a major improvement in like my mile training, but it cost me the last 4 or 5 months because my foot just wasn't feeling great. I was limping around. I was at like a 8 or 9 out of 10 pain. And I was just really frustrated because as a strength conditioning coach, like I should know exercises, I should know, different routes of treatment, but something just wasn't working. So luckily as a strength coach, right, I'm in the field. I get to know, or I get to meet a lot of like physical therapists, a lot of like cognitive performance specialists, dietitians, and eventually Caitlin's content was coming up on Instagram. A lot of my coworkers follow her. I was seeing like her posts, how like direct it was, how relatable some of her topics were. And I was like, you know what? I think I need like extra help. Coaches need coaches. So I reached out, and we've been working on it. Let's see.
No, you're
Yeah, we've been
fine.
working for what, 5, 6 weeks?
Yeah,
So.
something like that. I think we initially had signed up for 8 weeks to get this foot thing under control. And like we were talking about right before we hit record,
Mhm.
this is something that I see, 4 to 8 weeks is kind of the timeline that I've seen. But because you're someone who's dealt with this for such a long time, the chronicity of it, it's something that it does take a little bit longer. And that's kind of the frustrating thing, right? Too, is like you've dealt with it for so long. Well, now the rehab process is probably going to be a little bit longer, but a lot of that is just the tissues are super cranky. We've built up
Mhm.
compensations and things like that. So yeah, I think we need to talk about what happened last weekend because we went in kind of thinking one thing
Yeah.
and then something else kind of happened and
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna let you go into that.
before, yeah, before I was working with Caitlin, I signed up for a 6 hour race, like, I don't know, in the fall last year of 2024. And then before you know it, yeah, that time came up. I'm looking at the race, and normally I would be like, if I was the coach telling an athlete, to be like, hey, don't do it. Like, it's just not worth it. 6 hours is a long time to be on your feet, especially with a foot injury. But Caitlin was working with me. We had a plan. The plan was, I'll do like 4, 5, 6 miles, reevaluate because the race is like a 6 mile loop. Run it as long as you can for 6 hours, and then run, walk, or whatever. Step out if I need to. And I was totally prepared to just do one loop and then dip. Well, I felt pretty good. I had no pain during the run. I was run walking 7 minutes on, 3 minutes off, still hitting like 11-minute mile pace on trails. Right there's roots, there's some sand, there's wood chips. 500 feet of elevation per loop. And honestly, I was fine for the first 18 miles. And then that last loop was like, oh, I got 2 hours to do 6 miles. I'll walk it. Pain got to maybe I think it got to like a 5 out of 10 pain. But I mean, what do you expect after being on your feet for almost 6 hours? And so crushed the plan. But the crazy
Just like
part is
crumpled it
like,
up and threw it away.
the crazy part is afterwards, right? Usually like a 3, 4, 5 mile run gets me elevated to like a 5 and up out of 10 pain. But after that race, I was back to doing like our rehab stuff, and like maybe a 2 or 3 out of 10 pain the next day, which is awesome. That's the greatest feeling ever. The fact that I could walk around the next day, taking stairs, demoing jumps at the gym, and being okay. Good stuff.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And people listening are going to be like, you guys are talking about like getting to a 5 out of 10 pain, but I want to highlight like that 8 to 9 out of 10 pain. I think it was happening within a mile or two, right? Like that pain
Yeah.
was coming on very quickly. And here you did, like a ton of mileage and a ton of just like force through the feet and everything like that. And you were able to do significantly more with still significantly less pain. And it wasn't until that last lap that like things kind of started getting cranky. And granted, I think when you first signed up, I was like, dude, I wish we would have started talking like a couple months ago because we could have gotten you through the race like pain free and everything. But like I mean, in 4 weeks, we went from like an 8 to a 9 with like a mile or two to up to a 5, really on that back loop. And so I think huge win. Obviously, you're recovering a lot better this week alone. So on Saturday, you ran the race, and
Yep.
then you started working like your job with the kiddos. And then
Yep.
I know it wasn't a super hectic time with the kiddos this week, but still out doing stuff, all that.
Yep.
Not only are you doing that, you're still working, you're still demoing everything, you're still doing everyday life stuff. And then you threw on 2 hikes this week, which being in Alaska, like the elevation change, the mountainous terrain, and everything like that is insane. And I think last night you had said, maybe a 1 out of 10 after all of that. And
Yep.
so we're just seeing you bounce back so much quicker, which is fantastic. And I kind of want to highlight, so like you obviously mentioned like the strength and conditioning, and you work with some PTs and everything like that. And so like what all did you try before this, and like what do you feel like the
Yeah.
biggest difference has been from that
Yeah.
to this?
What's funny is all the exercises you have thrown at me, I've done hundreds of reps. The biggest difference maker is honestly just having someone in your corner, keeping you accountable, and actually prescribing like the right volume, and then just being there to communicate, which you've done almost daily. Where I leave a comment on the workout, and I don't even expect you to reply. It's just like kind of like journaling, where I'm just like typing in like how I felt, something for me to look back at or think about, and then like you'll just pop up and like leave me a message like asking how it went, or like how are you feeling the next day. And I think that really helps me stay engaged with the process, because typically it goes like, I have like 2 days in a row where I'm like, I nailed it, did my rehab uh, before working with you, right? And then 2 weeks goes by and I didn't do any of it, and it was just an endless cycle. The past 5, 6, whatever weeks now, it's been I probably did that volume, that those weeks was probably matching the past 2 years, which is crazy. And yeah, I don't think it's like luck or anything. It's just like, yeah, we're putting work in, we're being consistent, and like that's probably the biggest benefit is having someone in your corner. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. No, and you were straight up with me on that on our first call. Like, yeah, no, like I've done these things and like I've fallen off, and the accountability aspect has been hard for me. And I think that's something that most people, they look at coaches, they look at other physical therapists, they look at whoever, and they're like, "Oh, you probably have your routine on lock because, like you teach us stuff all day."
Yeah.
And not necessarily. Like I think that's where coaches need coaches, because for me, like I hired my own coach because, I not for rehab, but for like lifting,
Hmm.
because, at the end of the day, like I try to pour so much into the business that a lot of times, like I'll forget, like, oh yeah, I still need to go train or something like that. And just having that accountability, like, was huge for me, and just like it has been for you too. Do you feel like the foot pain was interfering with your training, both strength and running, and your mindset around it? Or do you feel like you were able to just kind of ignore it?
Yeah, so the foot pain, beforehand was interfering with everything. Like, as a strength coach, we demo everything: jump, cleans, pivoting, multi-directional movements, running, right? I work in a very tactical environment where rucking and running is very important. So when your strength coach isn't doing that with you, it's kind of looked down upon. So it definitely has like impacted my life in a negative way. But having like this process and having like a plan, it's definitely kept my mind at ease, where it's like, okay, maybe I'm not doing the things I was doing, but here's what I am doing to make up for it or get back to that shape where I can be interactive, functioning at 100% with my clients and my coworkers and my friends and family, because I live a very active lifestyle. So it's super important for me to get back into it.
Yep. No, and you're very well on your way with everything that you've been doing and just the adherence to the program. So I know you're going to be getting back to that very quickly. Did you have any hesitations about hopping into the program? And if so, like what kind of made you overcome those or were you just like, yep, nope, let's go?
Yeah, no, like because I was like following your content and working on like a human performance team myself, like I could see that you aligned with like how we talk at work here, and then seeing like other people's testimonials and results through your Instagram page, I was feeling like, yeah, this is it. This is my person. This is who I want to work with and give it a shot. And I didn't want to come in with like doubt or hesitation. It was like, hey, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do everything you tell me. I'm gonna give it my best shot, and it's worked out.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Do you feel like I am different in the content versus what you're seeing like behind the scenes, or do you feel it gets pretty similar?
I think it's pretty similar. What I like though is like you are very direct and you kind of like call out the BS out there because you have to, right? That's your platform, which is really awesome to see. A lot of people will make excuses and you're out there calling it how it is. Like you need to put the work in. And there are things you can do. You can't just like have these general excuses. That's the
Well,
best part, I think.
given your profession, that's the environment that you're in all day, every
Yeah.
day. So I typically do appeal to like people in your
Yeah.
profession more than, someone who isn't, because
Right.
that's just what you guys are around. Okay, cool. Is there anything else that, maybe if someone was kind of on the fence about joining, someone felt like maybe they were broken, is there anything that you feel like you want to say to them, some words of encouragement, anything like that?
Yeah, just like, if you feel like you're alone, reach out to you, reach out to Caitlin. Like I said earlier, I've been dealing with this since high school. I felt like I was alone. I felt lost. And then, these last couple of weeks have been the most impactful in regards to my injury. So if you feel like you're on the fence and you feel alone, you feel like you don't know what to do, reach out. It doesn't cost anything to reach out and talk. So do that.
Yep. And like you said, I'm pretty direct. If I don't think I can help,
Right. Yep.
pretty
Yep.
straightforward about that. So,
Yep.
okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on.